At the heart of an industrial revolution is an innovation that changes everything. Building AI Boston sees artificial intelligence as a renaissance. From the heart of innovation and the mecca of tech learning, we bring you AI for Real People, a conversation for everyone. Stephanie Roulic is dedicated to strengthening and connecting the New England startup community. As the founder and CEO of Startup Boston, she helps founders, startup operators, and startup curious individuals find the resources, opportunities, and connections they need to succeed. Startup Boston hosts events and creates content designed to educate, support, and celebrate the region's startup ecosystem. And today we're going to dive into why it's a great time to be an entrepreneur in this mix. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, we could not get over it. I want to tell you flat out, like one of my favorite things is startup. Startups are my heart and soul. And I want to just really get into this right away and ask you, in the beginning, right? You had what, $300 in your pocket and a great idea. And you're in this rich ecosystem. There's no doubt it's a great place to be. But can you give us a little bit of the origins of what did you see that was missing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, really from this end of things, back in 2016, the summer of 2016, I had co-founded a MarTech company and I was a first-time founder. I was not even 25 yet. I was still 24 at that time. And I mean, as a 24-year-old founder in Boston, at that time, I had absolutely no idea like where to go to even figure out how to build a startup company. Like I was buying like those books, like, marketing for dummies and like sales for dummies, like literally those books. And I was like, what do I even do? Like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I just want to build this startup. Like, I was just excited. I was excited about building something from scratch. So really kind of like the urgency for me to create something, such as Startup Boston was really being in that position as a first-time founder and being like, I don't know where anyone is in Boston that's also in the startup community. I don't know how to start a company. I don't even know where I'm supposed to begin. And also I keep pinging people on LinkedIn and they ignore me and my request for office hours for help, right? So that was really kind of why Startup Boston was first created in 2017.
Well, thanks for sharing the pain point, because I think that a lot of people will relate to maybe even scratching their head and asking, why would I even try to put myself out there? But I want to know, you two know each other. You're a product of that rich ecosystem. So why don't you just talk about how you two met? Cara, take it away, or Stephanie. Yeah.
So I feel like I've known her for so long. I'm having a moment.
I know. Oh, Stephanie.
Love it.
Good to see you. So when I started, I was an accidental entrepreneur myself. And, one of the very first people that I came across, because when you start to enter that ecosystem here, you cannot help but meet Stephanie very quickly. Like if you're paying attention to anything at all, you are going to come across Stephanie and she's going to welcome you right into the community, which is pretty amazing. And so this was early on in our journey. And I actually got an invitation from her. And I don't remember if she pinged me or I pinged her or whatever, but it all worked out. And so I was able to do one of my very first actual panel discussions that I ever did about our company at Startup Boston. And it was so great. And I remember just being very, very appreciative of her, because I think her origin story is exactly right. Like she's been there, she's done that, she knows how hard it is. So she's here to like help other people along their journey.
Well, that's one of the really fascinating things. And I think in an age of AI, what's most impressive, Cara pointed this out to me because you two know each other, but she said that you have a certain knack for getting that volunteer spirit ignited. And I want to give my hats off to you. This is the huge dilemma in this day and age where people are literally freaking out that an algorithm could solve all the problems out in the world. What do we need humans for? You figured out how to ignite human behavior. Why are you so good at that? Do you have a guess? I'm sorry. I don't mean to put you in the place of a shameless plug, or, either one of you chime in about what that ecosystem does best, which I see is like just picking up the shovel. Why does that happen for you?
I mean, I would say that for me personally, the leaders that I admire the most are the leaders that are willing to go and pick up the shovel with the other folks that they're working alongside with. I'm a huge believer in leading by example and also not asking anyone on your team to do something that you would not do. I think that as a leader, you have to, be about 5 steps ahead of schedule in terms of what needs to be done. You have to have a solid plan. You need to be able to take that big plan and distill it into bite-sized information so that you can really accomplish great things together as a team. And honestly, it just comes back to that leading by example and being excited about what you're leading everyone towards. So I think perhaps me, trying to lead by that example I've seen others do may have played a role in other folks also being passionate about wanting to give back to the startup ecosystem and play a role in building up Startup Boston as well. But you would definitely have to ask one of them because I don't want to speak for them either. But that's my hypothesis. And
Yeah.
I think, and I know for me personally that is how I lead.
I've got some theories too. Cara, I'll let you answer the question too. What do
Yeah.
you think makes her so successful in getting people galvanized? Because
Well,
you're one of
clearly,
them.
because I am one of, and I have to say, it's cool whenever you go to her events because the people who wear the Startup Boston shirts kind of walk around, and it's kind of the same color as this, right?
Mm-hmm. The blue.
Which I did not do on purpose. But you see these people walking around the events, and they have this sense of kind of pride. Like you can tell that they feel really good that they're in this role and that they're being associated with this group. And again, these are volunteers, and I think what it has to do with is part of what makes the Boston ecosystem so special too. Like we have a little bit of I won't say an underdog kind of thing, but a little bit of like, hey, we're special too, and we have our own special way of doing things. And I think there's like just a huge commitment here to like letting the world know how special Boston is and the ecosystem. And obviously, the real reason Stephanie's so good at it is because she knows a lot about marketing and communications and interpersonal relationships, because we know everything about everything, right, Stephanie? But you just have this way of igniting. But I think it's because the people feel like they're part of it. They're part of the solution that you're bringing and not just, being asked to move tables around. But that's just my observation.
I mean, they are part of it. Like, I will just chime in quickly. Like, they are definitely part of it. I mean, I do believe that it does take a whole community to really create that community that you want to see, and for folks to want to constantly contribute and give back, whether that's speaking at an event or, checking in attendees that are arriving at the event, or, being with me at the end of the event and picking up trash and being like, okay, let's go and make sure that how we found it. Like, all of those jobs, like, they have to get done, and they're all equally important in terms of, respecting each other, and also really building a startup ecosystem here. So, I mean, all of them are playing a huge role in terms of really creating what the startup scene here is in Boston.
So I'm going to wager a guess because I don't have the pleasure yet. We're going to talk about what comes next, but I will wager a guess based on how you scouted Cara that your mad skill is in valuing people. And valuing people will always ignite their heart. So that's just my nickel chiming in on it. But I want to talk a little bit about we're feeling the love and we're showing the hearts right now. And that's important though. We're at a real intersection. And I'm happy that you're seasoned you started at 24 and now you're a seasoned veteran. But I want to talk about it. You've seen a lot of inventions come and go, a lot of disruptions. I think the hardest part about AI, if we're going to speak honestly, is that it sort of feels like it's devaluing that human element. So knowing that it's a scary time, I want you to make a little pitch, not speaking for AI or any other thing that you don't want to speak on, but why do you think now is actually a great time to be an entrepreneur? What's the upside of the environment right now?
I mean, there is so much power in a solopreneur's hands now because of AI. I am not the technical founder persona when building a tech startup. I am more of the let's do sales, let's share the concept of what that startup is, let's go and deliver value to the customers, let's create the business plan, let's figure out where we're going to be in 10 years from now. Like, that's more of the hat that I play in the startup world. But if you ask me to code, just don't. Please do never have to code. It will. I won't even know where to start. I'll just look at you and be like, I got nothing. Like, what program do I even use? Like,
See, that's really important to say it, because if everybody listening right now, if you can just really understand let's break down what you said. It's a great time for solopreneurs because there are more tools possible. What's so great about what you're doing to democratize the scene is that the things that really matter are for free. For most of your events are free. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
They are all currently free. We just really want to make it easy to enter the startup ecosystem. We want to make becoming an entrepreneur or a startup operator or an investor in the making like a very accessible avenue, an accessible career path for folks throughout New England. So for us, that part is very, very important to us. But yeah, to go back to your initial question, I mean, I do think AI really gives those folks across those three personas, right? Like the founder, the operator, and the investor in the making. It really gives people the ability to kind of fulfill their dreams and to really, you still have to work very hard. You'll still have to learn new tools. But I think because of AI, it really kind of puts your career path and your career goals more in your grasp if you take the time to, double down and learn what's available to you now.
Mm-hmm. And just in developing prompts that make sense to learn the things, what you don't know, but really coming to your events and learning, the lingo of the startup culture. That's really important. I mean, have you ever heard of the book 1 Minute Manager that talks about why one person can't be all three of those things you just said, the operations person, the marketing person? I think we're leveling that playing field a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, I'm excited.
We definitely are. It's becoming, I don't want to use the word easier because startup life is anything but easy, but it definitely becomes more, I guess, achievable for one person to really scale up an entire business. There's been a lot of chatter on social about how in a couple years from now, there, has the potential to have a unicorn company that's really just owned and operated by one single person. And I don't think we're there yet, but I do find it fascinating with where we're going and how that could become achievable, where you don't even have to have that coding background in order to make that happen. And again, I don't think that's going to happen in 2025 personally. I still think some of those, vibe coding, no code tools, all of that it still needs a little bit more work in order to make a scalable product and not just the MVP. But it's exciting how that is a potential new world out there in a few years for non-coding founders that want to create their own company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And yesterday, Karen Kelly, who is a friend of ours who was on the show, and she's a speaker coming up at Startup Boston Week. I saw
Karen. I admire what she's doing. Launch by lunch. I love it.
I know she's amazing. So she was on an episode a little while ago, and so she's like many entrepreneurs. She wears multiple hats. So she has a company called Purposely Social, and she has Launch by Lunch, which is all about vibe coding. And she reposted something on LinkedIn. So this is all again like the community. We all hear what each other's doing. But she reposted something yesterday on LinkedIn from, I think it was Lovable, where they were saying that 99% of good ideas are locked up in people who can't code. And so it was this idea of, that this kind of vibe coding or AI or the ability to like get those ideas out of your head and into a working product is just so transformational. And I don't know, it just really struck me that just think of all those good ideas that would just die on the vine because someone doesn't have access to the capital or the right kind of programming. Now they can just build it. Maybe not scalable yet, Stephanie, but
yeah, no, it's very exciting. Startup Boston's been hosting a co-founder matching series since 2018. And in that co-founder matching series, I mean, you've hosted, I don't know, dozens upon dozens of events, right? It's been happening for about 7 years now. But it's been intriguing because there's a lot of great ideas that non-technical founders have when they arrive at that event and they're looking for someone with more of that coding background to bring that company to reality. And I mean, to your point, I'm excited about, how in a couple years that technology might be at a place where it can get beyond that MVP, initial product. So I'm very excited for this future generation of entrepreneurs.
Okay, so I'm going to say I don't even live in Boston, but when I saw Karen Kelly's post, I went, I got to be at Startup Boston Week. So let's just talk about it. Why are we so excited about it? Go ahead and tell us what we're going to see there, what people can expect. And let's highlight again, this is a free event. Like, oh my gosh, if you want to feel good about asking dumb questions or feel good about having an idea and just bumping elbows with these women and gentlemen, talk about what they can expect at your Startup Boston Week.
Yeah, definitely. So Startup Boston Week, it is the largest startup conference in New England. We do a really wonderful job at highlighting only New England speakers at our event as well. So we do a very good job at really highlighting folks from New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, and of course, Massachusetts and also Vermont. Let's not forget Vermont in that statement. In terms of what they're building here in the startup community, we really want to make this more of a community-driven event where we're highlighting what is incredible about our local startup ecosystem and really amplifying that and celebrating that, right? At the week itself, there are about 100 sessions. They consist of about panels, workshops, of course, networking events. And those 100 sessions are really created for everyone from an idea stage to traction stage to scale stage. We bring in folks from Series A and before. And there's content for founders, operators, and again, investors in the making. So for people who are interested in what is the startup community here in Boston all about, is startup life for me, but also for folks that are currently already working on a company, have an MVP, perhaps already landed their seed round of funding. There's content for all of those stages. And we get into very, very nitty-gritty topics and workshops. This is not a fluff conference. This is a please bring your notebook or laptop, whatever works for you. Take notes and come with all of your questions because people will come armed with all of the questions they have in order to start or scale a company. And that's what makes it so exciting. And that's, really why I created the conference to begin with, is because I wanted everyone to get those questions answered. So I'm very excited. I could literally talk about this conference for days. But I will pause. I will let the other two wonderful ladies here speak.
Okay, go ahead, Cara. Why are you excited?
Okay, so this is so from my own perspective, so forgive me. One of the reasons why I love this conference is because it's at Suffolk University Law School.
Oh, wow.
And just out of the randomness that is Boston, we think we're this gigantic city and this, it's a small city. Everybody knows each other. So back in the day, I actually used to work at Suffolk University Law School, and Suffolk is just a great school right in the heart of the city, and very, I would say, I don't know, very well, how would you say, Stephanie? They're showing up. They're just showing up for stuff and for
They're
this for the
definitely
people.
showing up. They want to play a huge role in helping, build and connect the startup ecosystem. And they are fulfilling that role as well. They, of course, host Startup Boston Week. This is our third year hosting it at Suffolk University. They are incredible partners, but they're hosting more and more startup events as well that are accessible to the public. So I have nothing but nice things to say about them. You have nothing but nice things. They are just an incredible resource for the community. They are really becoming a hub for some startup events that are really spinning up in the city.
This is what's great. And you guys have your local, digs, but I honestly love the intersection of history and then, of course, AI. And I feel like nowhere else do I feel that sense of why history is important, why those institutions are important, why the individual neighborhoods are important, or the the feel of a particular community. So I want to give some love too to the fact that it seems antithetical to say, oh, we're so open, because it feels like typically business is so closed, and that there's all this sort of tight-fisted I've got to be proprietary. And I think we're moving into an age of sharing. And so you've done this so successfully, years on years on years. I think you're leading us into a generation that AI naturally just dissolves the boundaries, if you will, of, okay, I've got to keep it a secret, to an open and sharing environment. Did you foresee that? Is that something that that's important to you, or is it just a nice, happy surprise?
I would say it's definitely more of a nice, happy surprise. I'm not going to go and pretend to be something I'm not. I will say that the way I've always tackled Startup Boston Week or any event Startup Boston does is that I do want to create an open sharing environment. I really love creating those rooms where there aren't barriers to entry. People want to share what they're working on, what they're struggling with. I want folks to, honestly have those open conversations. Even if you're talking with your competitor, there's nothing but good things that can become of those conversations. It makes both you and your competitor stronger, which is good for the market. And honestly, really good for both of your companies, because then there's a larger customer base, right? But in terms of foreseeing AI, that was not intentional, but I love it and I'm happy about it.
Okay. Because you're a navigator. You're a person that's a navigator, and that's a super valuable skill. So you're mirroring what I want everybody to understand listening to this conversation, that your very human superpowers matter in this moment. No one can predict where AI is going to take us. Right?
No, I definitely agree. And I mean, for Startup Boston, what I'll do is I do pay attention to what's happening around us, even if I can't see whatever trend is happening in the future. I do pay attention to what the needs are of our own community, what the founders, what the operators need within our own backyard, and really create either those opportunities for folks that have trouble connecting. I want to make sure that they have ease of connecting, or also just gaps in content, that maybe we just don't have available in our own startup ecosystem. We'll start creating content that helps fill those educational gaps, right? Until someone else picks up that torch. And I do think that can translate to a lot of different companies as well, to your point, right? Is just to kind of, read the room of, what's happening in your own industry, and being that voice that can help educate your own customer base, and really making you that beacon of light where they can go and connect with one another.
Yeah, everybody talks about connection, but you are an OG connector. Like literally, you've been here doing this now since 2016. Very
so long. I know. It's weird to think about.
Yeah. OG, you're OG. And it's like, and the funny part about it is like Boston, like I'm not originally from Boston. Been here 20 years or whatever, but it's like when people think about Boston, they probably don't think, oh, open, welcoming, inclusive. Like it's maybe not like our reputation, that we're a little more like, I don't know, East Coast and whatever, not as friendly. But so what do you think, Stephanie? Like, what is it about Boston maybe that makes this sharing happen maybe differently here? Or like, what do you want people to know that maybe they think Boston isn't like that? So what would you tell people that aren't sure about, like, are you really open and welcoming in Boston? Are you sure?
I think you definitely need to take some time to find your group of folks. I'm not going to say that every single group is open and welcoming, but I do think that we've come a long way since I first founded Startup Boston. If we go back to 2017, apologies, when I first started Startup Boston, it was not that welcoming of a space. It was very difficult to find events, in my personal opinion, to attend. They were all hidden. You had to know someone who knew someone in order to figure out where to go. It became like this whole like little game of like, how do I get on in the in crowd, right? Quote unquote.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I will say, with that stated, Boston still has more work to do, but has changed over the past 9 years is that there are more ecosystem leaders from different backgrounds really placing or creating opportunities for folks to connect, and really creating the Boston startup ecosystem that they want to see. And I think the more and more folks that really, create events for different industries, for different personas, the more that, share kind of what they're learning along their own startup journey, you can never have enough of that in terms of founders and operators sharing. And I think more and more people doing that in Boston, which has started happening over the past 9 years, can only just make our ecosystem better. So I will say it is a little bit easier to figure out where to go now in the Boston startup ecosystem. I mean, Startup Boston itself, we have an event calendar where we aggregate about 70 different calendars into one view. So that is your one-stop shop to figure out where to go based on your industry and, what you're doing. And we also have a directory as well on our website. So you can really easily filter by networking groups that you might want to go check out in the Boston startup scene, and start to find your people that you can go learn from.
Wow. Well, thank you for highlighting a little bit of like what needs to be, what the work is without throwing anybody under the bus here. You're very diplomatic. I love that. Needs work. That means, people out there listening to this, show up. What do you think it takes to just succeed in business, and what does it take to stay the course? Because you've obviously done that. And I think this will speak to, what is the human side of, lasting in this new environment?
You have to have some mental toughness. I would say it definitely is a lot of mental toughness. And that mental toughness comes from, of course, the folks that you surround yourself with, really finding those people either at those networking groups, events, through Startup Boston Week, that, you can go and build relationships with and really mind share with as you build your company. But it also is a lot of different self-work in terms of, really drilling into figuring out what makes you tick, what you need to bring your best self to work to build your company. It's, building a startup, like, it's a grind. I mean, I can't remember the last time in the past, 10 years that I've ever had both days off on a weekend. And I'm saying, like, it's just been a moment. Like, I truly cannot remember a time in my life in the past decade that has happened. I'm not saying that that's going to be a good fit for everyone by any means, but you just have to kind of figure out, what type of founder you want to be, and also what your goals are, and, match up your lifestyle to where you want to take your startup. And I think that understanding of, what fulfillment is and what success is to you will really trickle down in terms of like your whole lifestyle and what you need to accomplish that. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you coin that phrase, self-work? I'm gonna start saying that all the time. That's okay. So for anybody listening, again, the takeaway from that statement is, it's not easy, and there is no get rich quick, but the self-work is so lightened when you come together with like-minded people. I think the weight of saying even the words, I want to be a startup, I want to have my idea come to fruition, is just understanding you don't know what you don't know. I think that's crushing for most people. So we're going to eliminate that right now. Say, show up at Startup Boston Week and eliminate that part of the self-work, because you're handing out all these tools, and and I think there's nothing more powerful than standing shoulder to shoulder with people that are in it like that, that have the stories of survival.
And I definitely want to double down on what you said too, in terms of just understanding, what you're strong at and what your weaknesses are as a founder. I think, once you understand, okay, I excel at this skill, but not so much at that skill, it really helps you take your startup to the next level, right? Because then you also know what types of mentors you need to seek out. You know what types of books you should be purchasing, so you can go read up on it and learn it. I was terrible at marketing, which I find ironic, because now Startup Boston has become a marketing engine for, a lot of what's happening throughout the startup scene. But I Googled so much in the early years to try to figure out, like, how do you post on LinkedIn? Like, what is this? Like, how do people engage with one another? Like, how do you set up your website? And that's constantly changing, right? It's not a one and done deal by any means. But I think, definitely by identifying, and honestly, like, just take a minute, write a list, write down, all right, I'm really good at XYZ, and I need to, improve 1, 2, and 3. That will be immensely helpful to you. And then at some point, once you get more funding or revenue is always a good thing, then you can go and hire someone to fill those gaps of what you don't know.
Any final words, ladies? This has been fun. This has been so fun, ladies. Any final words on what's next and what you're excited about?
I've absolutely enjoyed this conversation. I'm excited to see everyone in September at Startup Boston Week. And also, if folks are just looking to learn more about the Startup Boston community, you can just type in Startup Boston. It'll pop up on page 1. Dive into our website with all of the resources. I absolutely love the Boston startup scene. I get to meet amazing, incredible folks like these two ladies as a result. So I hope to meet more incredible folks soon.
Thank you for joining us on Building AI Boston. Stay tuned for more enlightening episodes that put you at the forefront of the conversations shaping our future.